Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and TechAdvice.life video interview. Today I'm joined by Dan Mile. He's the CEO and co-founder of BirdDog, which I've discovered in researching for this video interview is a genuinely exciting, and in a world where everybody wants to disrupt or be revolutionary, has actually developed revolutionary technologies that transform live videos in ways that we'll be discussing very shortly. So Dan, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much, Alec. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. Now, Dan, I've had a chance to visit the birddog.tv website, and I've watched some of the videos at your YouTube channel, including the Rampage testimonial and also the BirdDog Cloud 10 update. And I have to say, I'm genuinely impressed at the way you're transforming live video across traditional IP networks using PTZ cameras. Now, there's also a standard that is launched in 2016 called NDI, or Network Device Interface. And we're going to explore these topics in more detail, but can we please start with your description of the company, its products, and its services?
Sure thing. I'd love to, Alex. So basically, BirdDog's been around since that inception of that format you mentioned called NDI. Now, the reason why we started up the company is as soon as I heard about this technology, I just knew it was going to change the way people were going to do video production and live streaming in the future. The reality is that up until 2016, television was made pretty much the same as it was for the 20 years prior. And what NDI does, that network piece, the N in NDI, is completely changed the way that can be done. So where previously you'd have something like a big production truck that's at a sports stadium or a TV studio that's filled with all sorts of TV equipment and people in lab coats, once you're on a network, it just changes the way a TV production can be done entirely. And really what I envisaged when we started up the company is making a way that people can get the highest quality video possible, broadcast television quality video, but making that more accessible for more people to use from a cost-effective point of view, but also just more accessible from a technology point of view. You don't need to learn this whole craft around TV engineering. So that's where BirdDog came from, is really trying to start off with that. Obviously, like every other company, we started up with one product. But really, the vision was to create a solution for people to be able to have a camera right through to displaying things on televisions inside inside a building or inside some sort of auditorium or something like that. But also being able to work over any kind of network, whether that's in the cloud or over the internet as well. So really, we're about making television as easy as possible for as many people and making as high quality pictures as you can with that.
Yes, I mean, I've been involved in various TV productions myself, and you see the guys with the huge cameras and you see the editing suites. And I mean, I've been in television studios where they have these, what looks like giant Daleks, the big cameras on wheels and moving it around. And I was watching that Rampage video, and it's incredible to think that, high quality productions can be done from little, much smaller PTZ cameras and controlled remotely. It just makes it so much easier. I mean, most people would think of the sort of the regular camera and recording to storage and HDMI cables and people running around. But as you said, NDI launched in 2016 and has revolutionized everything. How many people are yet to discover that NDI is a thing that has really changed the way video is being done forever?
Look, I think there's still a huge amount of people that haven't really seen or may not have understood or realised that NDI is playing much more of a part in these things. So a lot of our customers range from anywhere from those three-letter broadcasters all over the world through to anyone wanting to tell a story where, previously it was a challenge. If you wanted to have a live stream from a special interest group or a club or a house of worship or a sports stadium, it was always a challenge, and it always looked like you were kind of making B-grade television. So you were mentioning about PTZs or PTZs, depending on what part of the world you're in. They're robotic cameras. So when you think about TV studios normally, like you said, there's a bunch of equipment. They look like Daleks, that kind of thing. We've miniaturized that down into a tiny little device that looks suspiciously like a security camera. But what I did when we first started out with this company is make sure that inside there is a broadcast camera in disguise. So it's all about the high picture quality, and being able to have these small cameras means that you can have multiples of them. And that's really the secret of television, is when you have multiple angles, you can create interest and create a bit of a story about something so people want to watch it. If you just have a security camera off in the corner, it kind of comes across as you're observing someone talking rather than you being put into a television show or listening to a story. So for us, this whole advent of being able to put this into all sorts of different places really has made a big difference. And if you look overall, quite often, if you're watching some kind of show that's streaming on the internet or watching on Amazon Prime or something like that, they won't have been made with these big Daleks. They'll be made with PTZs and these smaller cameras like ours. And it means there's so much more content that is engaging and high quality. And that's what we've helped kind of deliver.
Now, I'm sure most people watching know full well what PTZ stands for, or PTZ, and I do too, but just tell us briefly about the history of these cameras and what it stands for.
Yeah, so I guess what it stands for first is probably the best way to start. A PTZ or PTZ camera, we keep on interchanging. I'm going to use PTZ from here on in because it's my that's where I speak mostly about these cameras is in the US. But it means they're a robotic camera, which means they can pan, they can tilt, and they can zoom in robotically, remotely, controllably. So basically it means you don't have to have a camera operator with either a camera on their shoulder or one of those big pedestal things where they're chasing people around. It's a small camera that's completely robotic and it's portable. It means you just plug it in with one cable, which gives you power and network and everything. And immediately you have that high quality picture ready to go. It means that you can just set up a TV studio very quickly, very cost effectively, but also very easily from a management point of view as well. Completely robotic.
And obviously, being very small, you can mount them in places that would be much more difficult for somebody to be crouching down. It must give you a lot of extra flexibility, and they're 4K these days as well.
Exactly, and I think we'll talk about it a bit later. You mentioned the Rampage use case. Where we see a lot of these cameras are being used is not only in these smaller studios and things, but where the broadcasters and higher end people use them is in angles and places where you wouldn't be able to get a person normally, and where previously you'd have what they call a locked off shot. So you might have a little camera that you can just sort of point in one direction. But if you can move that around and control things, it's just brilliant for anything from a concert or some sort of live event like this Rampage thing where you can get these great angles. But also where it might be too dangerous for a person to go. But if you've got a self-contained little robot, you can put it there and you get these amazing shots. So more often than not, you'll see in television shows, even the highest budget ones these days, will have an element of their videos being shot by these robotic PTZ cameras.
How soon do you think before they'll be on drones or wheels, or do we already have PTZs on those movable?
Well, actually, it's a very similar technology. So I think I don't know how much everyone that's watching this show has used drones before, but about 10 years ago, maybe even more recently than that, they had these stabilizers that came out with them. So all of a sudden, you get this beautiful drone footage that people use, and it's used all over the place as well. Effectively, that's a PTZ. It's a camera that's being moved and stabilized. But instead of trying to stabilize it and keep it still, what we're doing with the PTZ is actually doing the opposite. We're moving the camera around to make it look at exactly what we want it to see. And so for us, we're using a very similar technology to what a drone might use, but we're applying it for a different purpose, which is for a TV show, for creating a lot more interest and a lot more motion inside the TV show to make it more engaging.
Now, next year will be your 10th anniversary. So how big has the market grown in that time? I mean, you mentioned that many of the big TV productions are now using PTZ, so the market must be just enormous.
Yeah, look, I think as a company, we were the very first company to jump onto this NDI format in terms of making hardware devices for it. So back in 2016, when it was announced, I first heard about it in a pre-announcement, actually, before it was public. And the demonstration, the way that it was shown to me was a computer sending video to another computer, which was magic, but it wasn't actually solving anyone's real problems. So for me, the next day, I kind of woke up and said, what this NDI thing needs is some hardware. It needs devices that are small that you can put either on a camera or in a camera to make it work and make this format be used everywhere. So at the time, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. Firstly, starting up a company called BirdDog, and then telling people, I've got this whole new way of doing television. What do you think? Now, I think in a lot of ways, we got very lucky with the timing was just perfect. Everyone was pretty on it now as far as understanding that YouTube, you could watch videos and you can see things over the internet, but we weren't quite ready to do video production. And so by combining the technology that we ultimately built with the NDI format, we managed to show people that this was actually a viable way of making television. And in those sort of the years in between, we've had some great successes, and we really see it just growing more and more and more. Look, frankly, over the COVID period, it was in some ways it was a really defining moment for these robotic cameras, because you can imagine having a TV studio with 10 people in there. All of a sudden, people were starting to get a bit worried about that. So they started to use these cameras and could see some success. And so that's kind of legitimized it in a number of different ways. We had some legitimization just because the technology was up to the task, but then we had some practicality reasons where it was legitimized as well. And so from there, really, the rest is history. With our products, obviously we make these cameras, but we also make everything that goes around it as well from a computer network point of view. And so now we've really got to the point where it is absolutely It's been proven out, it's been accepted, people know what it is. And it's really in the process now of just getting further and further out to people as they're wanting to make more video productions and things. So I think there's a bright future ahead of us, but in a lot of ways, the hard yards of proving out a new technology kind of happened in the last couple of years.
And looking at your website, not only do you have a range of different cameras, but you have sort of these control boxes that don't require separate computers. And as you said, it's all connected via one cable. And I even saw in the Rampage testimonial, or that little video, that even communications could all be done over the same network. So, and on top of all that, it's all controllable via a web browser. So tell us a little bit about how it all works behind the scenes and how you can control everything in a way that is sort of different to the way it was traditionally done for decades.
Sure. So I think everyone will know what an HDMI cable is. You've got you've got your Apple TV, you've got some sort of box that you want to plug into your TV. You're using an HDMI cable. That's one point to another point, and it's fine in your living room. If you imagine a TV studio that's got 10 cameras, and then you've got some TV monitors and all sorts of things around, you can imagine the spaghetti that starts to kind of form with that, where there's cables going everywhere. And if you need a audio cable as well as a video cable, then you need extras. What this whole purpose of NDI is, it unifies all of that down to just a regular blue network cable, the stuff that you've seen on your desk and all that kind of stuff. And with that, the cool thing with the network cable is it also covers power as well. So effectively what we've got is a single cable that can do your audio and video. It can control your camera, it can power the camera. And then, as you mentioned, there's also communications, which is really critical inside any kind of TV show, is that crew and also the talent can communicate with each other. So unifying that all onto one platform is really just, it's taking that power of networking, the power of internet, and making it available in TV. And it just makes it so much more convenient. Again, rather than having something that's a jumble of mess where you need someone that really knows what they're doing from a TV engineer point of view, effectively, if you've got networking or Wi-Fi even these days, you can do your whole video production on there, and every single interaction point can be wherever you like on the network. It's not that point-to-point cable. And that's really the beauty of our solutions, is it's so flexible. If you've got a meeting space that you want to do a separate interview in, or an overflow room, you just plug your camera in and away you go. You don't have to run a cable, you don't have to worry about trip hazards and all that kind of stuff. It just makes it so scalable for any kind of video production.
And tell us about the equipment that is used to sort of link all these cameras together, of which I was just reading in one of these websites, you even won an award for it just recently.
Yeah, so we've got, again, trying to make a video production as easy as possible. We have a whole bunch of ways to interact with it. Again, once it's on a computer network, you can access web browsers where you can adjust the color of your cameras to make sure they all look the same and it all looks true to life. You can control them, you can monitor them, so you don't need to have another TV screen or anything. You can just use your iPad to see that. We've also got control surfaces where you have a joystick to control the camera around. The whole point here is that any of these devices, once you're on the network, not only can they send their audio and video, but you can adjust them, you can work with them. And that's true over the internet as well. So what we're trying to do is make everything as convenient as possible, where as long as you can get everything onto your network, which everyone's got a network these days, you can access everything, you can use it wherever you like. And those web page interfaces we've won awards for as well, because it's a really creative space to be able to make sure everything looks, works and feels exactly as you want. Those control keyboards and things where you can actually get these nice smooth movements and recall presets to get a camera moving to exactly where you want. They're all not only convenience things, but they're also necessities to really elevate what people are making with their video productions to make it look like television. And I think that comes back to kind of what we're about, is we want to make people that aren't necessarily core television producers have content that makes people want to watch it. It looks like television, it's engaging, it's fun to watch, and it's creative. And with all of these tools together, with our software, with our web browsers, and our control surfaces, as well as, of course, the cameras, that all comes together to make that just as easy as possible.
So which BirdDog PTZ are we talking through right now?
So this one here is it's called the P240, and it's kind of right square in the middle of our range of cameras. It's a 4K sensor in here, so it's a really high quality sensor. It's got great movement control, and this one has got 40 times zoom. So again, having a look at when you're looking at different environments, whether it's a staging environment or something like that, or some kind of event center, having a zoom that's 40 times means that camera can be right up the back of the hall, and you can still get a head and shoulders kind of shot from it. So it's a really flexible camera. It's one of our most popular cameras, actually.
Now, we've mentioned already several times the Rampage customer testimonial at the BirdDog channel on YouTube. It's a sub 5 minute video showcasing the incredible event that was captured about a year ago and streamed live. And I mean, since then, you must have had improvements in everything. But can you please describe this event to us and the other types of customers that you help every day?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is it's a fun event. I love it when people do kind of public facing events, and we're really fortunate with the kind of customers that we have that these kind of productions happen all over the place. But this one here, it's an event. There was about 30,000 people that turned up, but it was streamed to far greater audiences than that online. And the whole thing with this is back to what I was saying: is you want to make an engaging bit of television or an engaging bit of video streaming so people want to watch it. And so with our friends at Rampage, we helped them produce this, where they were using the top of the range product that we have, which is called the BirdDog P4K. That's our highest end camera. They had a whole bunch of them around on stages and getting different angles to have really the best front row seat view that you can have within these events, but also kind of the engagement with people that were there. And again, to do this in a traditional broadcast sense, you'd have a production truck there and a whole bunch of TV crews, and that kind of changes the environment of how you set up an event like this, where when people were in the event, they didn't even know this television production was going on, but people that were watching it were able to really feel like they were part of it. And that's kind of, in a lot of ways, how BirdDog Solutions are personified. Like we make people feel like they're engaged, feel like they're part of things with the highest quality pictures, but make it as transparent as possible. When the people that are actually using the production, you'll see the production crew that were using this in their quotes where it was just so easy for them to produce this video, but also the quality of it when it came out the other side was just so engaging for all of their fans. We've got so many other examples of that. There was another one which is kind of the other end of the scale in terms of music, but Lionel Richie's concert over in the Eden Project was on a couple of months ago. And that one was great because it's a perfect example, again, of where these cameras can go. There's all sorts of pyrotechnics and things where there's no way you could get a cameraman there. And they had our cameras right front and center. So there's some beautiful shots of how that event went. So they're two examples of kind of entertainment type events. We have all sorts of customers all over the place. So, I mean, a good example is the NBA. They use our cameras extensively now. So every single NBA game that is broadcast by ESPN, there's a new camera angle, which is the referee talking to whatever the call may be on a play. That camera is a BirdDog camera because it's small and can be shown very easily to get these great shots. But the NBA go way deeper than that in terms of their use of our technology. All of their fan engagement that they use Zoom platforms for. They've got a whole bunch of these cameras. So every NBA team has got a bunch of BirdDog cameras they use for their live productions as well. There's just so many examples. I could go on all day about different ways that these are used. But I think, for me, the fun ones are recognisable events, things like Rampage, things like the Lionel Richie concert, NBA. When you see that these productions can make use of these devices. But then you also see there's a whole bunch of corporate work that gets done, and there's a whole bunch of special interest groups as well. So it's a very flexible kind of technology that we've built here.
And I can imagine that with headsets like the Apple Vision Pro and the ability for those devices to show sports games and all these different angles at the same time, all sort of in your space, we're going to need many more camera angles to satisfy the desire for all that content. So the market should only grow even bigger over the next few years.
I very much think that's the case. Content is king, and now that we have kind of internet streaming with our cloud services and things, the BirdDog cloud service, where we can get not just one camera or not just something over the internet, but we can have masses of this camera and of camera footage and control of that. I think there's a whole bunch of really interesting things that are going to happen. And like you say, this whole concept of people telling you what you should watch, with normal television, moving into things like Vision Pro and that kind of stuff, and just in general, people want to watch their kind of flavor of whatever that TV will be. So I think it's going to be really interesting now that we have more cameras available, more angles, more control. There's going to be some great sort of things happening in that user experience for watching TV, especially in the sports kind of environments and things where you might be able to follow your favorite player, whether he's got the ball or not. Wouldn't that be cool if you had someone that you really wanted to watch how they were playing, or performance coaching and that kind of stuff? There's some really interesting applications for how this might work in the future.
Yeah, and of course you don't need a Apple Vision Pro headset to have multiple screens. I was at an LG TV launch event last week, and one of their TVs is able to do 4 separate screens at the same time. You could have 4 separate channels, but I'm imagining you would have these sports channels offering multiple angles and you could be watching 4 different matches at the same time. So that whole I sort of said, is
I'm not
that Back to
sure.
the Future too? Where they had the different TVs. Now we can do it.
We could do. I'm not sure I can concentrate on that many sports at once, but yeah, there could be some great applications for it for sure. So.
Now, we've discussed a whole stack of different things. I want to ask you about your history and some personal questions, but what else do we need to know about BirdDog that we haven't already discussed?
Look, I think probably what we're known for, even within kind of our sphere of our industry and everything, where we've got all of these customers doing live television, we've also got this really great platform which is called BirdDog Cloud, and that's in a lot of ways really revolutionised how people can do video production. Where again, we started out with making products that could go on a computer network, and it really set that the flexibility free. This BirdDog Cloud platform takes us the next step above that, where that can be done anywhere in the world. So you can have multiple cameras and control and communication from anywhere in the world for a TV show, for an event, for whatever that might be. And that means that you can get the best people for the production rather than the best people nearby for a production. And so from that point of view, we've got some great technology we've been building that really integrates people, irrespective of where those places are, to be part of this. So I mentioned earlier, we've got those web user interfaces and control surfaces and everything. We've now taken that out of just the regular blue kind of network cable that's in your building and made that available anywhere in the world as high quality as you can possibly get. So I think our cloud platform is really powerful, and we've got some great other applications in the medical space that we've been building out with that as well. Additional to that, I think really from us, there's some pretty cool technology still coming up. Everyone's speaking about AI and all that, and we're certainly part of that. But how AI can help in video production, I think, is only just being explored. Our cameras, for example, do automatic tracking. So if someone's on a stage and walking around, like I tend to do, the camera can automatically frame that up, and that's kind of fun. But television is it's a formulaic process. So there's a lot of things that AI can really help with that. So I think anything from color matching your cameras to choosing what the best shot is to giving more engaging kind of switching between different cameras. I think there's some really cool things that you'll see, and certainly we're very much feeling like we're at the forefront of that. We've got the front row seat, or the advantage of already being on the network, already having computing available to us just by the nature of every product that we make. We don't have a legacy of having these older products that are running over HDMI cables and things. So we're kind of already got that run up start to be producing a lot more kind of AI powered productions as well.
Yeah, I remember that it was the I Love Lucy TV show that was the first to bring the 3-camera set together where you could have these different angles. And here we are with AI, and your technology is sort of about to... I mean, we've seen an evolution of that 3-camera set to be everything we see today, but you're about to hit the next level, which is, as you say, you've got a front row seat. It's really exciting stuff.
I genuinely think it is. It's television just gets better and sharper, and we can we're 4K. We can make more pixels, but we want to make it more engaging. And I think that's really the next step, is how we do that. It's now available with all of your cameras all over the place, and now we can be more selective about how that gets put together to make a show that is more engaging. And I think that's really the next step of things. We've already got HDR, we've already got 4K, and I don't think there's necessarily a drive to go to 8 and 16K in any particular hurry. But certainly the technology we have and being on networks and computer powered means that we can go much better in terms of the way we're dealing with that and making that more engaging, more fun for people to watch what they want to watch.
8K is there, and it's using upscaling to take regular, SD content and HD content, even 4K content, and upscaling it. But yes, there's not a huge requirement as yet for 8K. Now,
there's certainly use cases for 8K. Absolutely, I wasn't certainly not dismissing that at all. But we can keep going down that path, and we will, of course. But there's other benefits that are there as well. So.
Yeah. Now, I've had a look at a bit of your work history online. At LinkedIn, you have explained why you decided to found the company, but tell us a bit about your work history, how you got to the point where you wanted to create BirdDog. And whilst I've looked it up since, where does the name BirdDog come from?
All right. Look, I think I might start from the beginning and go to where BirdDog started rather than the other way around. So my background has always been in technology. When I was in high school, I always wanted to get into computers. And look, I'm showing my age. I was a lot less capable than they are these days. But I was fortunate enough, the first job I got out of school was in a company that was doing the first of the video capture cards for computers. And that's for what they call post-production editing. So if you record things on, at that stage, it was on DV type cameras and even some analog cameras as well. You record that into a computer and then you can choose your different shots and edit them together. And that was really my first taste of video on computers. And it was pretty basic at the time, but I've seen a whole bunch of evolutions from analog to digital to HD to 4K now. And so from my point of view, I started out in that space, which was called post-production. If you like, that's where all your TV shows, whether it's episodic television shows or Hollywood movies and things, that's all done in that kind of process. I went on to work for a company called Avid. Now Avid do some of the highest end video editing platforms out there. A lot of the blockbuster Hollywood movies are edited on those, and a lot of news around the world is edited on Avid. And I was really fortunate enough to work with that company for about 10 years. I moved over to the UK and worked with them as a pre-sales manager. So I worked a team out of the UK for the Middle East and Africa, selling those solutions and building out solutions for people. I moved back to Australia, and that was coincidentally about the same time as wanting to have kids and things. So it was kind of a new life back in Australia. And that's where I started doing more and more on the product side of things. So we started up a company here previously to BirdDog, which was a distribution company. And so we were bringing in other products into Australia for video production purposes. Everything from editing systems to some of the wireless systems that were starting to come out, to lenses to go on cameras. And we were fortunate enough actually to do GoPro at the time as well. So as a distribution company, that sort of led me into talking with other manufacturers, which ultimately is where I learned about NDI. And so that gets me to kind of that 2016 period where I thought it was a good idea. Shouldn't be that hard to make a piece of hardware. Obviously, I learned that there's a lot in that, and the rest is kind of history with the company. But BirdDog was kind of founded from that point. Now, in terms of the name, it's a bit of a funny name, I suppose. Like I mentioned, it was terrifying the first day that I kind of announced this out there in the public. Was I going to be taken seriously? And look, I think it landed pretty well. The reality is that BirdDog is a memorable name. So from that point of view, once you've heard it, you're going to see it and recognize the logo as well. But the way we actually describe this is we're your faithful assistant for video production. If you're into dogs, there's a type, a sub kind of group of dogs, which are bird dogs. They're hunting dogs. They're your assistants. And we see us as BirdDog being your assistant for video production. We help you get that video production done as easily as no fuss as possible. And so that's where the name came from. And from there, we've kind of moved on to building all of our products and making it as big as we possibly can.
And now you've got offices in the US and in Europe, and you've got great testimonials. But how challenging has it been to found a company in Australia and serve the global market?
Look, I think probably the biggest challenge is time zones. If I apologise if I'm looking a little bit tired, I actually just came back from the US yesterday. So it's and that is one of the challenges, is the reality that we're really not in the best time zone for dealing with television and companies in a global scale. The US is the home of television, so a lot of our customer base is over there, and a close second is Europe. So there's always someone to talk to outside of business hours. Beyond that, I think for me, we're quite fortunate when we set up the company where, because the previous company I had was a distribution organisation, I knew my peers around the world. So I already knew people that were distributing other video products in the US, for example, or in Canada or in Europe. And so from that point of view, the go-to-market side of things was relatively straightforward. I think there's a lot of nuances in each market, though, that we've learned along the way. Those aha moments when you realise that you've just been doing things the wrong way for a particular market. And that's the fun stuff, I suppose, to learn. And I've found it fascinating along the way how, you think that the products that you sell will be sold the same way all around the world, but they're not at all. There's different expectations in terms of what you do with customer support. There's different expectations in margin and, how you work with resellers. So from that point of view, I'm not going to say it's without its challenges. I found it fascinating, really, the whole process. And, it's still very rewarding. The fact that we have our office in the US where we provide all of our support and everything for our customers. We've also got our staff all over the world that are, they're absolute diehards in terms of how they use our technology and really helping all of our customers understand as best as possible.
Now, you also mentioned briefly that you're working in the medical space, and on your LinkedIn profile, it says you're the CEO and founder of another company called Remedy with an I instead of a Y. So, what does Remedy do, and how much of BirdDog's technologies does it use to deliver its capabilities?
Yeah, so it's a really exciting little, well, it's not little, it's a really exciting piece of technology we've built. Remedy it's really taking our core capabilities. I mentioned earlier our cloud connectivity, where people can be anywhere in the world and interact in a video production space. Now, you look at how our products come together, and it's all about high quality pictures. They need to be network friendly, and they need to be as what we call low latency as possible. It needs to be live, because television's live. You can't have big delays. So we had this kind of trifecta of great technology. When you overlay that with the demand that you have in this medical space, where you've got, for example, a neurosurgeon that needs to be able to talk with another neurosurgeon, or if there's a training that needs to happen on some kind of medical device, to be able to have people anywhere in the world see, look, and interact with cameras and with video is really something that's quite unique and something that's really highly desired, because the medical space has a huge amount of requirements for training, of course, which at the moment is being dealt with a huge amount of travel. You need to get people that are experts to come and give some kind of training, or give a delivery of some kind of explanation of how this technology works all over the world. So what we've done is effectively we've wrapped up all of our cloud technology, which is the high quality pictures over computer networks with interactivity, with a user interface that's really friendly for doctors and medical professionals to use. And so basically it's packaging up that with a set of wireless cameras and a portable solution that allows us to take this video production and put it into an operating theatre, or put it into a medical device organisation to allow them to train up and to interact with people. And it seems to have really hit a great chord in that market, where they do require high quality pictures for obvious reasons, but something that is really approachable. And that's the work that we've done with Remedy, is making sure the experience for doctors, the experience for the operator, is easy for them to understand, because we don't want them having to focus on our software. They have to focus on what they're doing, the procedure that they're doing. And it's really been quite a successful venture for us, and it looks like there's a bright future ahead for Remedy.
Yeah, well, I mean, people have been talking about telemedicine and robotic surgeries and all that sort of thing for decades. It's been like a science fiction trope in one sense. So it's nice to see that it's actually coming true. And what a great idea to use the technologies you've got in a whole sort of new sphere that's actually changing people's lives. It's really good.
Thank you. It's really fun, and I think that whole robotic surgery side of things, I can tell you firsthand. I've seen a lot of things happening there. There's leaps and bounds in technology all over the place, and I'm just very excited that as a company we're able to be part of all of these things, whether that's for television and how that's changing, or whether it's for training and interacting in medical spaces. It's really cool to see that there's so much innovation still happening even now. When you think that we're potentially at peak innovation, it's certainly not. From what I can see, there's plenty more coming.
Yeah, every time people say there's a peak, whether it's peak oil or peak innovation, I mean, I think 1895, the US patent office was saying, "Oh no, we should shut down because everything that's worth inventing has been invented." How wrong that was! But I also want to say, watch the BirdDog Cloud 10 video on YouTube. It's about an hour, but it's fascinating to see yourself explaining to all the different people all the new functions and features, and no doubt you're already working on whatever the successes are to that. But it's just incredible how the promise of the internet. I mean, I still remember seeing for the first time the little postage stamp size video on Real Video, or See You See Me, all those years ago, and of course now we're talking through high definition Zoom, and we don't think twice about it. It's just a natural part of our lives. So yes,
it absolutely is. It's pretty exciting. So we've got plenty of details on all of our products on videos, but I think the cloud side of things for me is really where things are heading. We've got a whole bunch of different cameras that fit exactly the right purpose for anyone, whether that's an entry level system or someone that's wanting to just start out in terms of their live streaming adventures, right through to a top level broadcaster. Yeah. But having the connectivity around the world just changes things entirely. The fact that you can look at it, you can interact with those cameras, you can watch it on your Apple TV or your Android TV and work inside of production is something that really changes the way that can be done and who you can get involved. It helps people that are getting into the industry learn from people that have been through it and understand the way things work, because they don't have to be in the same room necessarily. They can talk to the most knowledgeable person they know. Yeah, so from our point of view, I think it's like I said a number of times. Really, it's a very exciting period of time, and I think the technology we've built kind of lends itself exactly for where people are going to use video moving forward.
You probably need to have a third company called Scholarly with an I at the end instead of a Y, which connects people with the top teachers around the world through your platform.
You'd be surprised how many education customers we have. It's used quite a lot, but I like the name though.
Yeah, well, just riffing on what you've already got. Now, I always like to ask as we get towards the end of the interview, if you can please share a memory of your first computer.
A memory of my first computer, I can still picture it. The first computer I really played with was the original XT IBM machine.
Yeah.
We did have an Apple IIc at one point, but the original XT, the memory I've got is me thinking I know how to use this thing and tapping away in DOS, thinking I was great, and I completely formatted the whole thing, and I thought I'd just broken everything entirely, and it was I had to go and fess up to my dad that I'd broken the computer, and we had to go and get it fixed. But I think in a lot of ways, that's kind of, it's me where I'll keep messing around with things to try and work out a different way of doing it. So from that point of view, it's probably not surprising that I decided, I'll mess around with cameras and work out how they can go as well.
And so my second last question is always to ask if you could please share some of the best advice you've received in life to help you get where you are today.
Look, I think the best advice I've had is it was a little while ago now, probably maybe 15 years ago, probably only 10 years ago actually, which the phrase was lean into the prickly bits, and that's when you're dealing with a challenge, whether it's technology, whether it's relationships, whether it's business, whatever it is, to lean into it and just deal with it straight away. So lean into the prickly bits. It's amazing how often it pops into my head when you're dealing with something. So from my point of view, that's probably my quote.
Well, it just reminds me that everything's about perspective. When you see a problem, it really turns out that it was an opportunity in disguise. And it's not until you sort of realize that that's what it is that you can move ahead.
That's it. Yep. Got it in mind.
So what is your final message to the viewers, listeners, and the readers?
My final message is that I'm very proud of us being an Australian company. We're very much an Aussie company. We're very much about innovation. From my point of view, when we saw this gap, we had a really kind of unique opportunity where you might look at cameras out there, and there's some big Japanese companies that come to mind first up, and how can a little Australian company make a difference in that camera space? And for us, it's all about just having a different perspective on how that can be done. And I think we had a bit of a helping hand in some perfect timing as well. But for us at BirdDog, we certainly always can continue to look at different ways of doing things to make it better, to make it more convenient, to make it easier to involve people. So I think that's probably a wrap up for what we're up to. The most exciting thing, I think, is still ahead of us in terms of how we're actually going to use this. We've got a lot of that infrastructure in place now. We've got some great products in market, and we've got some really cool things coming up pretty soon. But really, I think there's a great deal of innovation and things still ahead of us that we're working on that I think is going to be really game changing again as the industry moves forward.
I always like to say that the best is yet to come, and it always is. Dan Mile, the CEO and co-founder of BirdDog at birddog.tv. Please check it out. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain the company and your successes and journey with us. I really appreciate that you've taken the time, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
My pleasure, Alex. Thank you very much.